This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon.com/2headed nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Our story this week picks up where we left off last week.
Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area, it is our pleasure to welcome you to episode 732 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one. My name is Matt Baum. Why am I screaming?
I don't know. I never know why you're screaming.
My coffee wore off hours ago.
I'm the Internet's Joe Patrick, and I'm your head number two this week. It's time for another knuckle-busting new comic show where we'll review 12 new comics from the last two New Comic Wednesdays. After that, we'll set you up with our must-read new comic picks for next week.
And finally, we're going to give you a sampling of our Patreon Extra, where this time, the Joker recently got an origin makeover, so we're giving you the TLDR on Joker Year 1. But now!
Brace yourselves.
Super Tuesday turned out to be something completely different than we thought it was, and we're going to rain our disappointment down on some comics during review time in the Ziggurat. As always, our reviews begin with 6 comics from last week, and then we roll into 6 from this week. Each one will be judged harshly with our 3-point rating scale of buy it, skim it, or leave it. And we know plenty of you, if given the choice, would vote for anything else, but it's our show, goddammit. So let's get into it!
This time, our crazily concocted comics pile features Archie's return to superheroes, mecha mermaids versus cannibals, presumably, Golden Age bad ears, meth from space, and more. But it all starts with the return of Spider-Man's punk band.
New comics from the week of Wednesday, February 28th.
Because you demanded it, Spider-Punk is back in a new series called Arms Race. Number 1 from Marvel. It's 40 pages. It's $4.99. It's written by Cody Ziegler, cover by Takashi Okazaki, with colors by Rico Renzi. And that cover kicks ass. It is
Man, I
great.
love that cover.
It is so good.
I really, really love that cover.
Internal art is by Justin Mason, colors by Maury Hollowell, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. Here's your solicit. Encore! You wanted more! In a world without Norman Osborn, Spider-Punk reigns! This ain't no victory lap, though, as Hobie Brown and team try to rebuild society. Justin Hammer and Dr. Otto Octavius have other plans, like introducing the world to the Spider-Slaying Sentinels! Cody Ziegler, Miles Morales and Spider-Man, and Justin Mason, Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis, reunite to bring the Brooklyn boy back with the whole crew you know and love. Grab your boots, your instruments, your amps, and let's go! Woo! It's my ab workout for the day.
I am begging you to stop shouting.
Hey, they put it in caps, so I'm reading it the way they want it, all right? Look, Spider-Punk is back, and if you loved the first Spider-Punk,
yeah.
maybe you'll love this. There's a good opening first page. It does the Spider-Man Spider-Verse intro, you know, like the, all right, let's start again. My name's Hobie Brown, and I'm the punk rock Spider-Man, whatever. It lays everything out in a nice 2-page spread. Hobie is in a band with heroes you'll recognize, reimagined as punks, like Captain Anarchy and Riot Heart. Daredevil is a drummer, and Kamala Khan added a Z to her name, Ms. Marvel. So, you know, punk rock, I guess.
I don't really know if I love this concept for a what if universe.
It's awfully cute. The Lizard also has a band. He spells his name LZRD, which I would say is not punk rock. That's more kind of like dubstep, but whatever.
Yeah, right. Like Skrillex.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to get a record deal. Like, you might see a theme here. You know, it's just like, It's a punk rock universe. And I don't think they really did that in, you know, the Miles Morales Across the Spider-Verse or whatever. It was just like, is there a Spider-Punk? Sure, but he just happens to be like a punk rock dude that got Spider-Man powers. He's not from punk rock world where we're punk and everything's punk.
It's like Spider-Ham is not one pig in an entire universe of pigs.
Right. This is not Duckburg.
Yes, they're all animals, but they're all different animals.
This is not Howard the Duck we're talking about.
If everyone is a punk, then no one is a punk.
Yes, agreed. And I think that's kind of my problem here. Like, look, there's some perfectly good art. There's some really uneven art as well. Some really weird face work and stuff. There's a bunch of the lettering for some reason that is in red. Like certain words are in red and other ones are in black, but they're not words that they're like accentuating. It's not like,
yes,
what the
no, it is words that they're
doing?
accentuating. Yeah, it's words that they're accentuating. Like
sometimes, not others. Sometimes it's just like a thing, like the Spider Slayer, or whatever.
I think proper names are sometimes emphasized,
I guess.
But like this panel, I just happen to be looking at this panel where Captain Anarchy says, "Hard to tell who did more damage, the lizard or you, Hob."
Yeah.
And more, the lizard and you are in red,
I guess.
So yeah, I mean, it's like we've been kind of trained to gloss over it through the years, but if you look at a lot of the comics that we read with like just normal black lettering, there will be words with extra that are boldened.
No. Yeah, for sure.
I think that's just what this letter.
I guess that's what they're going for. I mean, look. Yeah. End of the day.
I mean, Matt, it's punk. Don't you get it?
I suppose this is further fleshing out the Spider-Punk corner of the Spideyverse. There's some new friends and ideas here. I never read the first Spider-Punk series. This team does a perfectly good job giving the reader everything they need to follow this story. Basically a Spidey story in a world where everything is framed through a punk rock lens, which left me not caring much. It's just kind of, it is what it is. It's one trick. I'm giving this a skim it. There's nothing wrong with it, but yeah. I'm not going to read anymore. I don't care. And I think this makes, personally, Spider-Punk a little less interesting.
Like Spider-Punk as a singular character.
Very cool.
Is fine.
Yeah, great idea. I love it.
But the idea where of like all the characters we know being punk rockers is silly to me. Like, and I don't know why that's any more silly than anything else we read, but for some reason it is. Like, it goes too far.
It makes less sense than like a Marvel Zombies. I get Marvel Zombies.
Well, Marvel Zombies, they're infected.
Exactly.
They're not just...
They took over the Marvel Zombie universe. It's not like they went, Marvel Zombies. It's a world where everyone's a zombie and we zombie around in our zombie mobile,
Right. Like, this is more like the Flintstones, where everybody goes to work on their guitar amp powered scooter. And
man, anything. You can't do anything punk rock, can you?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. No, I'm like,
honey, where's my nose safety pin? I've got to get to the energy board.
I'm trying to like link it to like the Flintstones, where it's like the car is propelled with his feet. The garbage disposal is a pig. Yeah, like it's like that.
Yeah,
and it's just, it doesn't do it for me. I think the art's really good.
Some of the
but this is a skim it for me mostly. I don't. No, thank you.
Did not demand any more.
Get your chiclets ready, because the Flash is back and Mike Deodato brought every single one of his teeth.
Stop it, Mike.
It's The Flash #6 from DC Comics. It's written by Cy Spurrier with art by Mike Deodato Jr., colors by Trish Mulvihill, letters by Hassan Otsmane El Lahou. It's 32 pages for $3.99. Here's your solicit. After the shocking ending of last issue, Wally West's world has been completely upended. And as he quite literally is putting the pieces back together, the Stillness's attempts to reach out to a higher power are answered. Lace up your boots as the first arc of the critically acclaimed new era for the Scarlet Speedster concludes. All right, so this book is not for casual or distracted readers.
No.
The story is so packed full of insanely bizarre concepts that it is way too easy to lose track of things and just like not be able to keep it all straight. What was the shocking ending of the last issue? I have no idea, and I literally read it 5 minutes before this one. I think it was just his son saying he didn't want to be a superhero. I think that was it.
This goes back to like like if everything's punk, then nothing's punk. Like if everything is shocking, then nothing is shocking. Sorry.
Sure. Spurrier is doing a lot with the emotional connection between the members of the Flash family, and it's all really compelling, but Deodato's attempt to convey that emotional connection just doesn't work for me. Well, the art is absolutely gorgeous. It's also sort of like calculated.
Yeah.
And I don't mean cut and paste like we've said in the past.
No,
not like that.
No.
I mean, it's like a bunch of points plotted out on a grid to express an algebraic equation.
Okay, so, and this is not me accusing anyone of anything. That's not what this next statement is. But there's something that reminds me of like that sort of weird AI art about it, where it's like, yeah.
There's an unreality to it.
Yes, like, yes, that's good, I guess, but it's certainly odd and not in a way where I'm like,
no, I mean, that's,
amazed.
Maybe
by
it's maybe it's the oddness part of, but yeah, there's, like you said, like, there's something about it that just feels off.
Yeah. Yes.
Especially when there's any sort of emotional stakes on the table, because when you take the masks off, or in this case, when the masks stay on and we try to get some sort of like serious human emotion, it just kind of looks weird and silly.
Yeah. And please stop differentiating flashes by drawing eyes on one and no eyes on the other.
Well, one has eyes and one has blank expression, and the bridge of his nose is covered like Batman.
Yeah.
That's how you know that's Wally.
I guess.
The coloring and the lettering are perfectly executed, and they really should be considered part of the art. Like, truly, like, the aesthetic of this book is elevated because of Mulvihill and Otsmani Alao's work. I had high hopes for Spurrier's weirdo sci-fi take on the Flash, but with issue 6, I think the book might be starting to buckle under the sheer weight of its many concepts. I'm giving this a skim it, and it kills me.
Everything about this should be a knockout, right? Everything about it, like if someone was just telling you about it and explaining how weird the art is, would be like, man, that sounds like the coolest Flash run ever. It's just not working. It's not working. It's I don't want to say it's like too weird, because that's a cop out, but it is buckling under its own weirdness, and it's not just the story; it's the weirdness of the art. It's the weirdness of the execution. Like, it's not working. It feels like an experiment that isn't necessarily failing, but could fail at any moment. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like, and there are things that make me wonder, why did Deodato make a particular design choice? Why do the like weird antibodies or whatever that are leaking through look like the ass half of a porcupine?
Because it's weird. That's why, Joe. Because it's weird.
Why do all of the gorillas have the same dumb helmet on?
Because they're weird.
Mike Deodato didn't want to draw them?
Because they're weird. And maybe
he can't draw gorillas?
Maybe he can't
I mean, it's just,
I don't know.
It's bizarre, and it's just maybe a little, too weird might be the right way to describe it. I just don't think it's a good fit.
It's too weird, and it's a little too clever, and honestly, the Flash is losing me.
For I have super speed, and this time I'll get revenge on the Flash by creating havoc all over his helpless world.
Good news, Joe, because Archie put out a superhero book that you can't help but understand. It's the Jaguar, #1 from Archie. It's 32 pages, $3.99, written by Carol Brown Ahmed, cover by Maria Laura Sanopo, art by Tango, colors by Ellie Wright, letters by Jack Morielli. Here is your solicit. Something is killing. By the way, this is also the first line of the comic book, like in the narration, directly from the solicit. Something is killing the pampas cats of northern Peru. A group of zoologists have come together to investigate these mysterious slayings. They know the culprit is a bird of prey, but the method of killing is unlike any of the birds local to the region. It's going to take someone with apex predator abilities to find out who's causing these murders.
Okay. It's not exactly the first line, but it's not far from the first line.
No, it is. Something is killing the pampas cats of North Peru. A group as well just come together to investigate.
There's like 3 or 4 paragraphs before he gets to that part.
Oh, whatever. Someone like Yvette Velez, a.k.a. the Jaguar. But will the predator become the prey? I mean, yeah, because it's all right there in the solicit. Jaguar's origin? Her teacher gave her a helmet. There you go. Now she has superpowers.
I mean,
No questions. She's just got them. This story moves fast, really fast. Not like hard to follow fast, but it's like, this happened, get it? This happened, get it? This happened too. It's all so convenient and quick that it's almost impossible to like know anything personally about the main character. She asks no questions. We know she can't speak Spanish. That's about it.
She asks, why me, when he gives her the helmet. That's the one question she asks.
And
like,
that's
why me?
It.
And the guy's like, well, I trained it. I earned it.
Yeah. Like, really?
Well, that's not an answer.
Right.
You handed it to her. She didn't earn anything.
We get like some background, like her parents' death, and she has this fear of giant birds. I wonder if that will come into play in a minute here. And it's all connected to the story very conveniently. Yvette, the Jaguar, she knows she has powers and a costume. She never asked any questions as to why. She conveniently ends up in the jungle because she's a cat specialist looking for clues in the giant bird that's killing the cats. Could the bird specialist be behind it, Joe? No way, that's too easy. Nope.
I don't think so.
It is. He wears a giant bird costume and everything. I mean, the art is good. It's cartoonish. Some of it reminded me of like Victor Santos's work on books like Until My Knuckles Bleed and Violent Love, that kind of cartoony, almost Darwin Cook kind of poppy stuff.
You know, I probably would have gone with like Bruce Timm or Paul Dini.
Yeah.
Bruce Timm.
No, that
you know, rather than the thing about my knuckles bleeding.
I mean, that's what that comic looks like, though. The colors are really good. Flashbacks glow in like greens and purples. The temple fight is completely wild. It's a perfectly good jumping on point for new readers. All right. So much so that you can't miss the plot. It's just all too fast and it's all too convenient. And then it's just over. And I'm not going to be bad. This isn't bad for a first issue. It just doesn't have any hook that makes it memorable at all. It's like, it's too easy. Give it a skim it.
I mean, yeah. The thing about these characters, these Archie superhero characters, is that they've been through so many different iterations through the years with so many different tones. Like the Red Circle stuff was dark. The Red Circle stuff at DC was dark.
Sure.
Impact Comics in the 90s, which was also put out by DC, that was just like capturing the Image Comics kind of zeitgeist where it's like brand new characters. And this is kind of more all ages,
I guess,
which you would say, oh yeah, this is perfectly in line with Archie. But they say it in the back matter that this character's been around for decades. This isn't the first appearance of the character. It's the first appearance of this version of the character. And you're right. There's like no questioning anything. They do a lot of like telling and not showing, where it's like, it's your birthright. Here's a helmet.
Yeah.
See you in the jungle.
Right.
It's like,
right.
Okay. I think the art is great.
I think it's great. The art's really good.
But yeah, it's a skim it from me too. Not bad.
There's just no meat on the bone. You know what I mean? It's just like, is it a superhero story? Yes. Does a cat fight a bird? Which is like, yeah. Is the bird more powerful?
Does fight a bird.
Like,
oh, you know what?
twist.
I did like the design. I did like the design for the villain's bird costume. I thought that was kind of neat.
It was good. It was good.
You know, Matt, sometimes at the end of a long day, or, you know, first thing in the morning, or when I'm supposed to be at work, I don't have the mental bandwidth to read a comic book in color. That's why this week I've picked Grimm, Pen and Ink #1 from Boom Studios. It's written by Stephanie Phillips. Art is by Flaviano. Letters are by Tom Napolitano. It's 32 pages for $6.99. And here's your solicit. Boom Studios' deluxe pen and ink collection continues with one of the biggest hits of the last 2 years, with an in-depth black and white look at Stephanie Phillips's and Flaviano's Grimm #1. The iconic first issue that introduced the world to Jessica Harrow returns in a stunning new format, featuring all new commentary from series artist Flaviano. Now, that doesn't say much, so here's the original solicit. Jessica Harrow is dead, but her journey has only just begun. Discover the world of the afterlife where Jessica has been recruited as a Reaper, tasked with ferrying countless souls to their final destination. But unlike the rest of the Reapers, she has no memory of what killed her and put her into this predicament. In order to unravel the mystery of her own demise, she'll have to solve an even bigger one. Where is the actual Grim Reaper? I love a good twist on the old Grim Reaper / afterlife mythology. Dead like me, Reaper, etc. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. I liked the added twist here that Jessica is the only Reaper that has no idea how or why she died. The afterlife's where you're supposed to get all the answers, but it's just not working out that way for her. Of course, the latest soul she's transporting swipes her scythe and uses it to say one last goodbye to his love. Not a great idea because, and it's nobody can see him.
She's new to the job and you immediately lose your scythe. like that's bad news.
I'm not even sure how new she is to the job.
She seems like she's relatively new, because she still doesn't know how a lot of stuff works. So
there's a big twist at the end that has me wanting to go back and read the whole run. I went back and looked at the regular color version of Grimm #1. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful comic, but presented here in black and white, Flaviano's art is incredible. He uses so many different styles and techniques in tandem, and often he's combining several of them in a single panel. I love the presentation of the afterlife as this giant bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It's like a waiting room or an airport terminal. And we've seen concepts like that before, Beetlejuice and The Good Place. But Flaviano's depiction is uniquely stark and sterile. It's like devoid of all character, good or bad.
Yeah, I like it because it makes it creepier. Even it's not playing on all those tropes of it's heaven or purgatory, or it's a desert, or it's it's just like a giant Apple Store DMV situation.
The added insight into Flaviano's creative process, I think, is really neat. It adds a lot more context about his design choices. There's just little paragraphs at the bottom of each page where he's like, I was going for this in this panel, or the reason why I designed it like a sterile waiting room is because of this. I really thought that added a lot to the experience. All right, we joked a lot earlier on. We don't usually do reprints on the show, obviously, but we both missed this series completely.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with Grimm #1's story, and I was blown away by the art. I definitely want to go back and read the whole run. I'm giving this a buy it if you didn't already buy the regular version a couple years ago.
Yeah, shame on us for missing this one, because it's one that's gotten a lot of publicity. It is a fantastic story. I think if you are enjoying books like House of Slaughter, or not House of Slaughter, Something is Killing the Children, this is not like a similar vibe, but in the sense where it's like, okay, there's a larger world built around this thing. Person has a job, that they're thrust into and whatnot. And this art is outstanding. It's so good. And it's like,
it is incredible.
Yeah. And I did go back and read the color version before this review, but looking at the black and white shit, this is where you see this dude really working, where you can really see what his talent is. And Flaviano is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Not taking anything away from the colors, because that's also gorgeous. But you pull that back, and this is the kind of dude that's done everything on the page already. And they could have released it that way and it'd be fine. This is gorgeous. It's a buy it. You should be reading Grimm. Let's stay in our black and white theme for the Savage Sword of Conan #1 from Titan. It's 80 pages for $6.99. That's a friggin' deal, Titan. Well done. Okay. Written by John Arcudi.
Now, is this a magazine, Matt?
Yes, it is magazine size. It is
okay.
It is written by John Arcudi, Jim Zub, and Patrick Zurcher. Cover by Joe Jusko, and the cover whips ass, man. I love me some Joe Jusko.
It's a pretty good cover.
Art by Max von Fafner, Joe Jusko, and Patrick Zurcher. Here's your solicit. The Savage Sword of Conan is back from Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. I still don't know what Heroic Signatures is. Featuring a new Conan epic from John Arcudi and Max von Fafner, the rousing return of Solomon Kane, written and drawn by Patrick Zurcher, an electric prose story by Jim Zub, spectacular art pinups, and more. The Savage Sword of Conan! Sorry. Issue number 1 heralds a new era of adrenaline-fueled adventure. It's an anthology, just like the old Savage Sword of Conan magazine. I never really read that stuff, but I know how important it is to a lot of creators and a lot of older nerds. That, like, it's legendary shit. It's absolutely gorgeous, and a lot of legends worked on it. And Patrick Zurcher, no friggin' slouch, right? This Von Fafner guy, though, holy shit, his art is amazing.
It's really gorgeous.
And he's definitely like, he's blending some photorealistic stuff in there a little bit, but it's never like completely noticeable. Like I'm going to talk about in a little bit here with a different legendary, well, we'll put legendary in quotes, a different creator. We'll just say that. It's an anthology though. So, you know, your mileage may vary. I think the Conan story was excellent. Arcudi nails it. Full of sweaty, ugly men, monsters, gorgeous, buxom women, promise of riches, deceit, violent, mean, and sexy, and macho as hell. And the pro story by Zub was pretty good too. I really liked Zurcher's Solomon Kane. Like, he's got it. He is nailing it. And Patrick Zurcher's drawing it. And Patrick Zurcher is a total friggin' badass. This is just gorgeous from page 1 to the end.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. I think the art is pretty great throughout. The first guy, he does get a little in the weeds with the...
He does.
I don't even know if you can call it photorealism because it's like dinosaurs and shit. But that stuff kind of looks a little goofy next to the beautiful line drawing. But I digress. Zurcher is a very talented artist. He's kind of a shithead in real life, but that's okay. His art is very good in this, and this is a beautiful book, 100%.
This new Savage Sword of Conan anthology, it goes out of its way to very much feel like the classic pulpy stuff. All 3 creators know how to pull it off. This felt classic, but not in a way where you could see anyone working, right? It's nothing forced about it. It's just good. And I think fans of these characters or the old Savage Sword magazines are going to love this. I think new fans could dig it too. I'm giving this a buy it. It was great.
Normally, I'd give something like this a skim it because it's an anthology and you might not be into Conan. But I mean, it's an 80-page magazine for $7. Like,
yeah. And the quality just maintained through it.
It's very high quality. It's packed full of content. And it's going to be different. You know, presumably it'll be different creators rotating through arc by arc or whatever. I think bringing back Savage Sword of Conan was a genius move on Titan's part. And I'm going to give this first issue a buy it. I think it's awesome.
It's cool as hell. It's Conan's version of 2000 AD. That's all it is.
Yeah. Or like, you know, heavy metal.
Yeah.
Fill in the blank.
It's great.
Feel the power! Conan!
Matt, back in my day, our alternate universe comics were introduced by a bald man in a dress, and we were glad for it.
That's right. He was only allowed to watch. He could not interfere. Right?
Of course, we're talking about What If, and this week, it's What If Venom #1 from Marvel. It's written by Jeremy Holt with art by Jesus Hervas. Colors are by CC De La Cruz. Letters are by VC's Ariana Maher. Cover by Linnell Francis Yu. It's 32 pages for $4.99. Here's your solicit. Years ago, in a familiar church tower, the Venom symbiote was spurned by Peter Parker and found a willing host in the vengeful and wrathful Eddie Brock. Or at least that's the story you know. From Rising Stars, Jeremy Holt. From Marvel's Voices, Spider-Verse. And Jesus Hervas from Marvel, Unleashed. That's like the more recent, like, Pet Avengers kind of book.
Yeah.
Comes an all-new look at what makes the Marvel Universe's most sinister symbiote tick, with a journey that reimagines its earliest days bonded to a host with a rage and temper entirely different from those of Eddie Brock. Boy, ain't that the truth.
I mean, okay.
I mean, yeah, you know. I think that the title, What If Venom, is a foolish bait and switch.
Oh, yeah.
because the actual title of this comic is "What If Venom Had Bonded to She-Hulk?"
Yeah, I mean, like, look, that's what we got. It is not.
It's what it is. Now,
like,
look,
on the cover, they've
also,
got like Venom wearing Loki armor and shit.
on the cover, yeah, the cover is trying to sell us something completely different.
Yeah.
It's Venom. It's like Combo Man, right? We talked about Combo Man on the show a long time ago, where it's just like part of him's Wolverine, part of him's Loki, part of him's Doctor Strange. Now that might be where the story's going. We don't get that here.
No.
And no complaints, because I love She-Hulk. And Jeremy Holt's story, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's pretty impressive how completely the symbiote wrecks Jen's life. And maybe that's because, by contrast, Peter and Eddie didn't have that much going for them, so we didn't notice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. I hadn't thought about it like that, but like, yeah, Peter was like poor photographer and Eddie was out of a job. So.
Yeah. Because it's constantly driving her sleeping body around at night, she can't keep her shit together during the day. And we get a time jump and we see that years of this has gone on. And now she's jobless, homeless, and roaming the streets. God forbid she calls, the Wasp or any of the Avengers.
Well, I mean,
whatever.
I think they play it well enough that it's like, it's sort of like this drug and like almost drug addiction type story. You're embarrassed of certain things.
Yeah, I'll give him that. Yeah, you're right.
And you think you can control it and you don't realize you've hit rock bottom. I think it's pretty clever.
I will give him that. That's very fair. Sabretooth attacks out of nowhere, steals a piece of the suit. I'm sure that won't come back to bite anyone in the ass later.
What do you want? He's just taken in the night. I guess.
He's just like, oh shit, She-Hulk. I gotta tear me off a chunk of her liquid skin. The art by Jesus Hervas is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. It's really nice at some points. It does get awkward in others. Like there's a scene where we see the church where Eddie's about to commit suicide in the church. And before the Venom can get to him, She-Hulk shows up and he tries to throw the gun at Venom. And it is like the worst drawing.
See, now, and it's weird because some of this is legit good. He's got some really good.
Some of it is just like, yikes.
Yeah.
And shouldn't a Venomized Hulk, like any Hulk, be way scarier than what we get?
I mean, it probably the end of the world kind of scary, right? I don't think it's a stretch to say, that's probably the end of the world scary.
It's like, yeah, you don't want it. You don't want it to happen. Hervas also does a very good job with facial expressions. I thought his facial expressions were very good.
He is very good. He's excellent, I would even say. There's
some storytelling issues.
There are some things he could do a little better. And it's a type of thing where, like, look, dude's probably young. He's figuring it out. He's got a huge job. He's doing it. He'll get better. I think.
Especially if these guys came out of like the Marvel Voices kind of.
Those are essentially tryout books. I mean,
I feel like Marvel has this kind of a separate bullpen of up and comers.
Yeah.
Not quite Stormbreakers or Young Guns or whatever.
Stormbreakers, Joe.
Also, branding.
I'm not going to sit here and listen to you disparage my Stormbreaker.
But in addition to that, they're also, from marginalized voices, LGBTQ, black and brown, whatever.
Let's say underrepresented. AAPI. Let's say that.
Underrepresented. Thank you. And I like that they're getting their shot on like mainline books. I think it's great. Unlike most What If stories, this is the first issue of a miniseries. I'm sure all of those lingering questions that we had earlier will be addressed. But like I said, I really miss having the Watcher. Like that was a joke, but it's not really a joke.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
It is an interesting idea with an unusual pairing of characters, which I appreciated, but the story never really gets deep enough to make me want more. I'm going to give this a skim it. It's not bad at all.
It's not bad. I agree.
I don't know if I'll be back.
I'm not going to be back. And the reason being, it's not just because the Watcher's not here. Obviously, that's stupid. But I would argue, like, look, man, there's no soul to this book anymore. There used to be soul to What If. It was crazy. It was nuts. It was like all over the place and it was fun. And yeah, you had the Watcher introducing it and like, I don't understand why we stripped all that out. And now it's just like another universe where Venom has become She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Right? Like it feels stale. It feels stale. It doesn't have the soul.
There's no setup. There's no gravitas.
No. There's no soul.
There's no,
that's
like,
what's lacking.
In your world. Like, they've got freaking Jeffrey Wright voicing the Watcher in the MCU version of What If.
Yes. Like, why not just do it? I don't get it. I don't know. But it's a skim it for me.
So once Bruce saved me with that blood transfusion, voila, She-Hulk took center stage.
Does that mean you rampage through towns and destroy lives?
New comics from the week of Wednesday, March 6th.
Leaping into this week for undoubtedly the weirdest shit we read, it's Night
Holy
People.
shit, dude.
Number 1 from Oni. It's 32 pages, $4.99. Written by Chris Condon.
I just broke into a sweat thinking about it.
Cover by J.H. Williams III. Art by Brian Level. Colors by Rhonda Pattinson. And letters by Sean Lee. Here's your solicit. From literary icon Barry Gifford, internationally renowned creator of Wild at Heart and co-writer of David Lynch's neo-noir masterpiece, Lost Highway. Night People is a pulsating roadmap of the American subconscious where neon-lit southern nights give way to lipstick, sweat, and blood, and the odd, innocent, and evil are all fellow travelers down an interstate of dark, elusive dreams. Adapted from Gifford's acclaimed novel by breakout writer Chris Condon, who worked on That Texas Blood and the Enfield Gang Massacre, both of which are excellent. And a rotating cast of stunning artistic talents follow an uneasy company of wanted criminals, cartel killers, and lost souls through 4 interlocking tales as they travel a path of intoxication, lust, and spontaneous violence from New Orleans to Egypt City, Florida, and back again. In our first tale of desperation, fanaticism, and murder drawn by Brian Level, who worked on Poison Ivy, 2 ex-convicts, a pair of inseparable lovers named Big Betty Stallcup and Miss Cutie Early are out on parole, using their newfound freedom to purify the world of men's evil influence. Sort of. Like, yeah, I agree. That happens.
I feel like that solicit went on for so long and said so many things, and I'm still not sure I can reconcile what I read with what you just read.
Everything in that solicit is here. It's the way
technically correct
that it is put together. And I'm not saying it's a problem, but what I'm saying is, like,
it's an experience.
For those of you who haven't seen Lost Highway or Wild at Heart, you know, these David Lynch weirdo movies, they're weird as hell. And the narrative is very much an experimental narrative. And Barry Condon, I've never read this book, but I looked into it. It's a weird ass book. It's super weird. And it is an experiment in narration. And I think this writer, who I very much enjoy, who I think is crazy talented, is doing the best that he can to adapt this narrative. But it just kind of comes off as a bunch of things happened. The end. You know, like, if it's intertwined, it's by the fact that yes, they're all on the road doing certain things. The art, like the story, is very spastic.
I think the art is good, but it's
good.
Weird.
It's good. It's very spastic. And I think it matches the story very well. But just like the story, I think the art gets a little too frenetic. And when you pair that with a frenetic story, by the end, it kind of feels like you drove by a car accident, you know, like you looked out and there's blood and guts, and you can put the story together. Like, obviously 2 cars hit each other and maybe a cow. I don't know what that is, but like
the guts of some animal. Right.
But
we don't know what
so
animal
fast that it just, I'm giving this a skim it, but I do think there is something here. Like, I think there is definitely something here. I just don't know if it adapts well to comics. I guess that's where I'm at. Maybe this is too hard to adapt.
So this is my philosophy with this one. Just like you wouldn't necessarily recommend Twin Peaks to every person you meet, if you, a Twin Peaks fan, I'm speaking to the hypothetical reader.
Gotcha.
Would not recommend Twin Peaks to everybody, even though you really love it. That's sort of what's going on in this comic. And I don't know if it's something that where it's an issue with the adaptation, because I bet you the source material is exactly the same.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, making it almost unadaptable. to something like this where it can fully
but
succeed.
Is it unadaptable? Like, would somebody who's read the book feel that way?
I don't know.
Would somebody who's read the book read this comic and go, they did it?
Yeah, I mean,
stuff.
I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know either. I've never read the book. I've never seen Lost Highway. I'm not really a David Lynch person.
I'm a massive David Lynch fan. I love that stuff. I swear, I love it. Apologist even for his weirdest shit.
I don't do enough drugs.
This
like
isn't David Lynch. This is the guy who writes with him, but it's very Lynchian in tone.
It's Lynchian, yeah.
Hyperviolence, deep Southern epithets,
It's compelling. Like, I read it and I was kind of fixated by it.
I'll give it that. Yeah.
But when I was done with it, I couldn't really tell you that I liked it.
You told me you hated it.
I know, but then I immediately was like, well, did I? And I don't think I hated it either. It's just,
it's sort of like
it captivated me.
I know I keep talking about David Lynch a lot because he's mentioned, of course, in the solicit, but like in his films where there's some extreme violence that's hard to look at or hard to watch, like he's trying to bother you. Harmony Korine, who made Gummo and Kids, does something similar. But it could be one of those things where it's supposed to bother you and it's supposed to shock you. So much so that it makes you feel uncomfortable. And if that's what they're going for, yes, they elicit some of that. I just don't know if it works as well in comic book form as it does in novel or movie, because at no point was I like, wow, this is getting me, like I couldn't even acknowledge that much. And I don't like Harmony Korine. I appreciate what they do. It takes talent. It's not for me. And I feel like this comic was kind of like, not for me either. But I think everybody involved is very talented.
Fair. Yes, I agree with you. This is a skim it from me. I read it. I had very conflicting feelings about it. And I'm still conflicted about it. But it was captivating, to say the very, very least.
Sure.
It's a skim it for sure.
Truck, jeans, beer, girl, creek, boots, truck, tan legs, train, dog, beer, Dixie cup. Got a beer in my beer and a Chevy in my truck. Got a dog at the wheel, cut off jeans truck. Dirt road, back road, beer.
Let's stick to the weirdo Southern theme we got rolling on and add some crystal meth.
Space meth, nonetheless.
Space meth. It's Golgotha Motor Mountain #1 from IDW. It's written by Matthew Ehrman and Lonnie Nadler, with art by Robbie Rodriguez, colors by Marissa Louise, letters by Hassan Otsmani Alao. That guy's getting around this week.
It's getting paid.
It's 36 pages for $5.99. Here's your solicit. Join superstar artist Robbie Rodriguez, co-creator of Spider-Gwen, and the dynamic writing duo of Matthew Ehrman from Witchblood and Lonnie Nadler from Age of X-Man. Well, Lonnie, you've got better credits to your name than that, I think. On a high-octane redneck motor massacre, when a derelict chunk of a passing interstellar rock rains down on Elwood and Vernon Damage's meth lab, Damnage. That's their last name. Damage. I love it. In Golgotha Knob, Kentucky, their lives are turned into a redneck body horror nightmare. Still needing to make their deliveries to the buyers, mutations or not, they set off down Golgotha Knob only to be beset on all sides by crazed addicts, cannibal police, and mutated neo-Nazis. It doesn't matter what awaits at the bottom of Golgotha Knob for the Damage brothers, because they must ride through a cosmic hell that they're unlikely to survive. But if these brothers do survive, they'll finally have made enough money to start over in the beautiful utopia that is Cincinnati.
Hey, it's literally like right across the river. So
what if Dewey Crow from Justified had an even dumber little brother, and they ran a Breaking Bad style meth operation using an alien rock from outer space? Say no more. I'm in.
And by the way, if they don't put that quote on the cover of issue 2, you guys are fucking up. All right, come on.
You can have that for free.
Yeah.
Ehrman and Nedler do a fantastic job working with the art to set the scene, giving us this hilariously tragic history of Golgotha, Knob, Kentucky.
It's great.
I love the history. It's one of the worst places in America, even before the meteor hit. Yeah. I love that the Damage Brothers, all they want to do is make a new life for themselves in Cincinnati. It is so wholesome.
Well, it's like the only big city they've been to, and when they were there, it was magic.
Probably, yeah,
they were there as kids.
Yeah, it's like I can't imagine anything else.
Yeah.
Things start to go horribly wrong when they try to sell off their new product to a bunch of neo-Nazis, and the neo-Nazis demand a taste test.
Go figure.
Yikes, no good.
Yeah, I mean, like, have you ever been to a drug deal, dude? They always do a taste test. Nobody buys
no,
it.
Man, I've never been to a drug deal.
You've seen them on TV, Joe. Come on. The guy puts the coke on the knife and goes, "Ooh, that's quality shit." All right, and then whatever.
I've ever been to a drug deal. Gorgeous art by Rodriguez and Luis. Truly, it's beautiful.
Truly.
The body horror transformations that Rodriguez comes up with are truly and disgustingly awful, and it makes me wonder if that dude is okay. I'm not sure.
It works with his art style too. It's like you were really born to draw this.
Yeah. Luis's colors are incredibly vibrant, which seems very fitting considering that Robbie Rodriguez is an accomplished colorist himself. We've had a pair of pretty light weeks, and I just needed something to round out my list. I am really very glad that I chose Golgotha Motor Mountain #1. I loved it. It's a huge buy it. This book is great.
It's wackadoo. This book's completely bonkers. It's gross. It's funny. It's great. The narration, for some reason, I couldn't not hear Jason Lee from My Name is Earl doing the narration.
Right. Yes.
I don't know why.
Yes.
I'm giving this a huge buy it. I loved it.
100% that was Jason Lee.
Yeah. Well, if you're sick and tired of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I got good news for you. Got 4 new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles you can read about in the pages of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin 2, Re-Evolution #1, because IDW gets paid by the word in the title, apparently. This is from IDW. It is 52 pages for $8.99. Written by Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, covered by Isao and Isaac Escorza, the brothers. Art by Isao and Isaac Escorza and Ben Bishop. Colors by Luis Antonio Delgado. Letters and design by Sean Lee. Here's your solicit. More than a decade after the last Ronin defeated the Foot Clan, New York City finds itself in a state of steady decline. Now the disparate gangs vie for economic and political control, and the chaos is taking its toll. It's clear to Casey Marie that if something isn't done, the city she knows and loves will be lost forever. So, whether they're ready or not, she and her young pupils must raise a new coalition and lead the charge to keep the peace. Witness the rise of the next generation of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as they fight to restore peace to the streets they live below. Legendary TMNT co-creator Kevin Eastman proudly presents the next epic chapter of The Last Ronin, reassembling the acclaimed creative team from the original Monster bestseller for a second oversized prestige format miniseries event. So we're 10 years later. It does feel like this flows right out of part 1, but I will say a lot of gangs and not a lot of ninjas. And I kind of need ninjas versus ninjas in my TMNT book. Like, it loses me a little bit when it's like, like Rocksteady and Bebop show up. Like, I like the ninja fights,
Don't be racist, Matt. Ninjas can fight anybody.
I will say they do a really nice job of resetting how we got here. So even if you didn't read The Last Ronin #1, or you've never read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic, there is like a 7-page flashback by Ben Bishop that resets the entirety of TMNT continuity up to this point. It's very impressive. And like when he does it, it starts in this sepia tone, kind of like ancient Japanese scroll showing, the history of the Ninja Foot Clan. And then as it jumps forward, it goes to like black, white, and red, like the TMNT comics. And then as it jumps forward into like IDW stuff, it's in full color. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that they, like you said, they do a really good job kind of setting the stage and introducing everybody. And I am somebody who did not read The Last Ronin. I think we read #1 for the show. But beyond that, I never read it.
It was excellent.
And I didn't have any problems with this at all. I thought it was a very accessible comic.
Yeah, I really like the design on the new Turtles, too. They did like some very...
I loved that they all looked completely different.
Yes.
They all look like completely different species of turtle.
But in subtle ways. Like one's got like a yellow splotch on his face. One is very light in color. One's a big beefy dude. One's got kind of...
One looks like a snapping turtle because
like
he's got like a beak.
Turtle beak type thing. But it's like one of those things that Eastman and Laird probably couldn't do back in the day. And then it was too late. Like they got too famous too fast. And it's like, well, we can't change them now. So they just have different weapons. That's how you know they're different. This is part 2, and there's no reason, but honestly, there is no reason a new reader couldn't jump on here. That said, Joe Patrick included, do yourself a favor, read the last Ronin part 1. It was so good. And Eastman and Waltz are doing an excellent job expanding the Turtle family with a new team. Excellent art team, but we better get some evil ninjas here soon. Regardless, I'm giving it a buy it. I really liked this.
Yeah, I'll give it a buy it too. I also very much enjoyed it. IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is something that I've wanted to get into for years. And so me not reading The Last Ronin has nothing to do with that book. It has everything to do with me thinking, well, I haven't read the beginning stuff. And I know that it doesn't matter.
You'll be fine. Come on.
I know that. I know who the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are. I'm not an idiot.
Right.
But in my brain, I'm like, oh, I've got so far to go before I can get to The Last Ronin. But I read this for the show because that's my duty, and I did my duty. And this is, not only was I totally fine, I had a great time reading it. One thing, okay, so yeah, you mentioned it in your notes, and I kind of glossed over this, but April O'Neil and Casey Jones, that's their daughter.
Yeah. Casey Marie Jones.
Casey Marie, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the only thing where it's just like, oh, maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. Is like, I am assuming that's Casey Jones's kid, but yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is great. The art's great. The flashback stuff is especially beautiful. It's a buy it from me. I love the big kind of oversized format that they do. These are good looking books, y'all.
Yeah.
Speaking of good looking books with weird formats, it's The Last Mermaid #1. From Image Comics. This is by Derek Kirk Kim. Full stop. Everything. It's 32 pages for 3. That's not right. That can't be right. It's on the Diamond site said 32 pages for $3.99. I kind of doubt that that's the case, but that's okay. Well, here's your solicit. Series premiere. Thanks, Image.
Oh, thanks, Image.
A lone mermaid roams an endless wasteland on a quest beyond reason. To press ever onward, she must survive the interminable stretches between tiny pockets of water, the roaming bands of cybernetic cannibals. Again, in theory, we don't really see that.
We'll see them. We'll get there.
And we'll get them, yeah. And the fearsome mutant beasts. What propels her forward to take such a risk?
It is 32 pages for $3.99.
Okay, yeah. The solicit says it all, really. The Last Mermaid is just, it's an artistic showcase for Derek Kirk Kim. What little dialogue there is there to help convey things the art just like literally cannot.
Right.
Like, what's the mermaid looking for? Well, you know.
Yeah, other than that,
the text is there to tell us.
We're letting the art work. Or it's setting up
something like the
world.
fact that she's hungry. Like, how do you draw that she's hungry other than like a comical, like, she's rubbing her belly?
Sure.
You know? But thanks to the art, we know what's going on for the most part. A mermaid is trapped in a wasteland, and she's using a giant robot suit to survive.
I love it.
That's it. It is a really fun idea, and little hints like very Earth-like landmarks. Look, man, it's the Golden Gate Bridge. You can't tell me otherwise. They're on Earth. Make the premise even more intriguing to me. Kim's art is simply stunning.
Yeah.
It's cute, but somehow also desolate and thrilling. He does a phenomenal job conveying huge parts of the plot with little to no help from dialogue. And that's the sort of work that can only be accomplished with a singular vision from a single creator.
Totally.
Like there is no barrier between idea and execution.
Right.
It's all right
So
there.
the whole world is it's developed entirely in his brain, and it shows. It comes off
He
like...
doesn't have to have any meetings.
No.
Right. Exactly.
And it comes off like, I mean, this is probably the opposite, but it comes off like a Pixar movie where they're like, this is the style, this is what we're doing.
Sort
it
of,
works with the
yeah.
story, and it's just
This could be a Pixar movie.
gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
The Last Mermaid is Derek Kirk Kim's first comics work in a decade, and it's been in the works almost as long. It's a brilliant expression of one creator's tremendous talent and dedication. I'm giving this a buy it. This is a great comic.
It really is. It should have been my pick this week. No offense to night people, but this is great. I'm giving it a buy it as well.
You take your chances. You roll the dice. What are you going to do?
Golden Age Batman fans, rejoice! It's time to talk about The Batman. First Night, number 1. From DC, it's 48 pages, but it feels like 60. It's $6.99. It's square bound. It's written by Dan Jurgens, cover and art by Mike Perkins, colors by Mike Spicer, and letters by Simon Boland. Here's your solicit. Witness the earliest days of the Dark Knight. Legendary writer Dan Jurgens and superstar artist Mike Perkins team to retell one of Batman's most infamous cases through an acutely modern lens.
Why?
I don't
Why
know.
is that all in caps?
I don't know. The year is 1939. Pardon me. The year 1939. The world, still reeling from the horrors of the First World War, is on the brink of tipping into an even more gruesome conflict as fascism is on the march and gathering strength to America's darkest corners. Against this backdrop, a series of violent murders has begun in Gotham, and the recent emergence of the mysterious vigilante known as the Bat Dash Man has the power brokers of the city living in fear of institutional collapse.
I think we should call him the Bat Dash Man. For
I
the
think it
remainder
is.
of
This is the Bat Dash Man. All of the evidence in the murder investigation defies logic. The perpetrators are all men who died in the electric chair. Okay, I did not pick up on that in this.
Yeah.
I mean, there is an electric chair in this. I did not pick up on the fact that the perpetrators had died in said electric chair.
They say it in the script that they're all, yeah.
But when the Bat Dash Man comes face to face with one of these sickening anomalies, he barely escapes with his life, throwing into question his ability to survive in a world that is brutally evolving around him. Legendary writer Dan Jurgens and superstar artist Mike Perkins return to the earliest days of the Dark Knight, retelling one of the most infamous cases of... What? We just did that in the beginning, you guys. Come on. So... This was tough for me. I'm going to be perfectly honest. And it's like, I get it. Dan Jurgens is doing a Black Label thing, and they do a good job of the historical sort of like, yeah, the Nazis are on the rise, and all the beats are here. Bruce Wayne is a rich guy. The commissioner is the only good cop. There's a bunch of bad cops and stuff like that. But it's like, they lean really heavily into some of the 30s and 40s dialogue. We have people saying stuff like, Bruce Wayne pulls up in his car and like, "Where? Who's the bread and butter and egg man with the fancy heap?" Like, okay.
Who's the butter and egg man?
Like, okay. It's kind of odd. And you've got like Batman. I get what they're doing here. It's a Golden Age thing, and it was a different character. This Batman talking to himself out loud a lot. Constantly. And he hides behind his cape like Dracula, like. That's what he did, right? In the Golden Age.
They are specifically homaging those stories. I read this in somebody else's coverage of the book, but the reason those books were so full of dialogue, like Batman talking to himself out loud while he like does his detective work or whatever, is because there was nothing else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course.
There's no supporting cast.
Right.
There's Gordon, and that's it.
And I get
There's
that.
no Alfred. There's no Robin.
I totally understand all of that. But I think this goes to my next part with like Perkins' art. Perkins is a fantastic artist. But like, there's so much weirdness here with a modern look at the Golden Age Batman costume, which is not a good design. It's just not. And when it looks silly. Yeah. Modernized. The ears are too big. The gloves are bright purple. His cape is just weird. And like Perkins has him in all these weird poses at times too, where I'm just like, it just feels to me like they were so slavish in the homage, not even adaptation, but in the homage, that the book gets downright bogged down in it. And by the end, I was just like, I don't care. I'm done here. I don't care. And the last page with the cops that are just like, throw him in the electric chair in front of a group of people. Like, okay, guys. Like, I don't know.
I mean, again, though, we're homaging a specific style.
And I know that. I think it's just too slavish to that homage, and it didn't work because of it. So I'm giving this a low skim it. I'm not coming back for more. Some of the photorealistic stuff in this, like the picture of Blackgate Prison is literally just a picture of a prison that's glowing green. Like, okay. This didn't work for me.
Okay. This is the sort of book that's going to vary, where opinions are going to vary wildly based on your tolerance for certain ideas and executions. Like, I liked this a lot.
Really?
Not like picking it for my book of the week or anything.
Really?
But I've read that, like, I was kind of surprised at how much you didn't like it compared to how I liked it.
I thought it was, ugh.
And I understand, like,
It was too much, man.
It's goofy. I think that the Golden Age Batman suit drawn in a modern way looks stupid.
Yeah.
It's those ears.
Yeah, they look like horns.
It's the chunky ears that swoop out.
Yeah.
Now, and I said this on our Discord earlier this week that I liked it in the context of this new cartoon that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm are putting out, or Bruce Timm, I guess. I don't know if Paul Dini is involved.
Paul Dini is involved.
But the way it's drawn hyper realistically here is, I don't like it.
Doesn't work.
But also, this is a Batman that's still getting his shit together. He gets beat up a lot in this comic.
He sucks at his job.
Right. Like, he's just, yeah. And he's like you said, he's like paranoid about his identity. So he's constantly like swooping his cape over his face. But that sort of stuff, I was like, oh yeah, like, I get it. I like it. I thought the pre-World War II setting, like, just fresh off of, or still reeling from World War I, about to enter World War II, Nazis on the rise. Like, I thought that was very compelling. This is a buy it for me, but your mileage may vary, like Matt's mileage varied.
So wordy. God, it was so wordy.
It's yeah. But you know what? I like Dan Jurgens more than you do.
I know you do.
So.
I know you do.
If you're coming to the next book for the X-Men, well, I've got bad news. It's Ultimate X-Men #1 from Marvel Comics. It's written and drawn by Peach Momoko. Script adaptation is by Zach Davison. Letters are by VC's Travis Lanham. It's 40 pages for $5.99. Here's your solicit. Visionary creator Peach Momoko of Demon Days and Star Wars. What Star Wars did she do?
I don't know.
Creates a new generation of X-Men for an all-new universe. Presumably. Hisako Ichiki is a teenage girl who just wants to live a normal life, go to school, hang out with her friends, ignore the political strife broiling over after the events of Ultimate Invasion. Nice of them to like shoehorn that in there just to make sure we understand. But life has other plans for her. In Japan, urban legends have sprung to life and brought some unusual new powers with them. Meet Armor, Maystorm, and a group of new Ultimate X-Men, the likes of which you've never seen before.
Later.
Okay. So,
you won't meet them here.
I mean it's
later.
#1.
Yeah.
You know what? We read a lot of comics.
Sure.
Several of them just this week,
Yes.
where the things promised in the solicit are for future issues.
So Peach Momoko is doing a Star Wars Visions. Which one of those?
Star Wars Visions. Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
There you go.
Of all the books announced as part of the Ultimate relaunch, Ultimate X-Men was the biggest question mark, and I think it still is.
Absolutely.
The first issue focuses solely on Hisako and the first manifestation of her mutant power. Hisako is also known as Armor in the mainline Marvel Universe. Momoko infuses the story with Japanese culture and aesthetics. I made a note here because I didn't read the solicit first, that this technically might not be Japan, thanks to the geopolitics of the universe.
I mean, It is the area that would be
it's
Japan.
where Japan would be. Yeah. of the very few things I thought to expect from this issue, Japanese horror was not one of them.
No, not at all. I'm okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like about all the preview imagery we saw, I was like, what is going on in this book? Is it just like,
yeah, that's true.
Are we going Junji Ito horror? Like,
yeah. Hisako's story is absolutely tragic. She's just returning to school following the apparent suicide of her best friend. Though she does handle metaphysical stranger danger surprisingly well for a 12 or 13-year-old kid.
I mean, yeah.
This like shadow demon shows up in the forest and she's like,
I got that she was scared. I mean, like, I definitely picked up that she was like frightened, but like, what else do you do?
Sure.
You know?
I kid. We do learn that her friend's death is maybe more than it seems and that there are more victims to come. The art in this comic, it's absolutely beautiful. Ink and watercolor. It's obviously not traditional superhero art, but it is, in my opinion, a perfect fit for the story that Momoko is telling.
Okay, so I can't agree with that more. This is definitely her book, her story, and I think it's smart to set it here. But I think that is also the thing that may turn some people off.
Perhaps. And I have another thought kind of along these lines when I wrap it up. The depiction of Hisako's powers, it's really lovely. And it hints that there's more going on than just force field projection.
Yeah, I think I like it more than the real armor, honestly.
Well, to be fair, I don't really know a lot about armor's origin, and I'm thinking I remember very vaguely something along the lines of she is fueled by like the spirits of something or other.
I don't know. Lay that on us.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. Yeah. I didn't look it up, but yeah. After reading Ultimate X-Men #1, I was left wondering if the series is going to ditch the superhero angle altogether, which would make it diverge more from its inspiration than any other title in Ultimate history. So what if they do? What if Ultimate X-Men is not a superhero book?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why it has to be other than our own baggage that we bring to this.
Think about what we thought of Ultimate Black Panther, where we finished it and we reviewed it and we were like, this could just be Black Panther.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that was, again, like, that was us saying like all they did was bring the baggage, right. That's all they did.
And and if Momoko is going the way that it seems like she might be going, this might actually be the departure that we were looking for in the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
And based on the strength of the art and the storytelling, like I'd be into that. I'm going to give this a buy it, but I'm saying adjust your expectation.
I think it's a buy it as well. And it's just a showcase for what she does and how good she is at it. And you just need to take it that way. It's a good comic. Not every comic has to try and do what the Ultimate Black Panther was doing, maybe unsuccessfully. And we're like, we're resetting the whole origin of the X-Men and everything. Like, no, like, look, mutants in this world are different. And this is just the story of one of them that's going to hook up with some. I thought this was fantastic. And it was beautiful to look at. You just can't bring that Ultimate Marvel baggage to it thinking they're going to retell the X-Men story. That's it.
Exactly.
It's a buy
for sure. You can find links in our show notes for more details on these comics, but now it's time to pick the best comic we read from this pile to add to the THN permanent collection. Matt, which of these comics made your bat ears stand at ridiculously erect attention?
My first urge is to say TMNT, The Last Ronin, because it was great, but I really liked The Last Mermaid a lot. I thought The Last Mermaid was excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was really great, but I also really liked Ultimate X-Men #1, which was just not what I thought it was going to be, and it was such a breath of fresh air. I think I'm going to give it to The Last Mermaid because I didn't expect anything, and if
it helps at all, I'm also going to give it to The Last.
Okay, I'm going to give it to The Last Mermaid.
It was an exceptional comic book.
It really was. It just and gorgeous in a way where it's not just like a visual feast. Don't worry about the story. Like the visual feast tells the story, and that
the story is there.
Masterpiece
and the art.
work.
Yeah, it's. It's impossible to separate the story from the art.
Right.
And that's why I think it's an achievement.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Totally agree.
It's time to head up to the THN Sanctum Sanctorum to make our must-read picks for next new comic day, March 13th. Let's take a look at what's going to rip the cash out of our 401ks next week, Joe Patrick. Just kidding. I don't have a 401k. We've got Back Issue Magazine turning 150. Can you believe it? Batman's going to meet that good-looking paisan Dylan Dog. The well-respected nation of Madripoor is blaming Hawkeye for an assassination in the pages of Black Widow and Hawkeye #1. Why anyone would listen to anything coming out of Madripoor is kind of beyond me at this point. And Valiant Comics lives, and they're going to prove it by putting out Bloodshot Reloaded #1. Joe Patrick, one of these blockbuster comics has to be your pick for next week. I just know it.
My pick for next week is Helen of Windhorn, #1 from Dark Horse. It's written by Tom King with art by Bilkis Evely. It's 32 pages for $4.99, and here is your solicit. From the Eisner Award-winning and best-selling creative team of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comes this gothic sword and sorcery epic that's Conan the Barbarian meets the Wizard of Oz. Following the tragic death of her late father, C.K. Cole, the esteemed pulp writer and creator of the popular warrior character Othan, Helen Cole is called back to her grandfather's enormous and illustrious estate, Windhorn House. Scarred by Cole's untimely passing and lost in a new strange world, Helen wreaks drunken havoc upon her arrival. However, her chaotic ways begin to soften as she discovers a lifetime of secrets hiding within the myriad rooms and hallways of the expansive manor. For outside its walls, within the woods, dwell the legendary adventures that once were locked away within her father's stories. This also gives me big The Unwritten vibes.
Yeah.
Which was all about essentially if J.K. Rowling had a kid.
Yeah.
And Harry Potter was based on this kid.
It's imaginary
and he grew up
kid.
to become a total shithead.
Yeah.
It's a compelling hook. It adds this like mystery manor kind of thing.
Is this Tom King's first Dark Horse, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think so.
It might be.
And we love
Bilkis
Evely.
Bilkis Evely, yeah. I mean, say what you will about Tom King. I have said what I will about Tom King many times in the past. Neither one of us can deny that Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow was outstanding. It was brilliant.
The only Tom King that's really bothered me is his Batman. That's it. Like I've liked everything else.
Dude was on it for a long time, so that's enough.
Else. Yeah, and some of it was great.
You liked Heroes in Crisis, Matt?
Was that Tom King? Heroes in Crisis?
Yes.
Oh shit.
It's Tom King.
Oh. I feel like it was an editorial mandate. My pick for next week is Napalm Lullaby, #1 from Image Comics. It is written by Rick Remender with art by Bengal. 40 pages for $4.99. Here's your solicit. Series premiere! Thanks. The best-selling creative duo of Rick Remender and Bengal reteam for Napalm Lullaby, an all-new, ongoing dystopian epic with special double-length first issue. A child with unimaginable power is raised to believe he is God by a cult of zealots, utterly confident in the moral authority of their religion. Doesn't sound like anything that's going on these days, though, huh? The magnificent leader has imposed his will on humanity and created the ultimate theocracy. Join them or be cast out to suffer with the masses. Rick Remender, a creator we're going to celebrate next week. I would argue is one of those writers that has never missed. I don't remember a Rick Remender project where I went, not for me. I think this dude nails it every goddamn time, and Bengal is an unbelievable illustrator.
That is true. You know what about Rick Remender? I think that you're probably right.
Right?
There isn't any. I mean, I think when he was doing some stuff at Marvel, not the things we celebrate at Marvel, but some of the books he did at Marvel, maybe not so great. But more times than not, Rick Remender is a hit out of the park every time. And I might not always stick with a series, but I'm always interested.
Yeah. And as wild as this sounds in the solicit, this is definitely holding a kind of a little mirror up to society right now and going, hey.
Is it? I can't tell.
I think this might be where this goes if you're not careful.
The THN trade of the week goes to Swan Songs. It is a trade paperback from Image Comics. It's written by W. Maxwell Prince. Art by Various. We'll get to them in a second. It's 192 pages for $16.99. Here's your solicit. The end of the world. The end of a marriage. The end of Eden. The end of a sentence. The end of anhedonia. Even the end of the sidewalk. And along for the terminal ride are some of the industry's best, brightest artists. Martin Simmons of Department of Truth. Casper Wingard of Homesick Pilots. Philippe Andrade of The Many Deaths of Layla Starr and Rare Flavors. Caitlin Yarsky of Black Hammer. Alex Ekman Lawn, renowned college master. I don't know if that's the name of the book or his title.
Collage.
Oh, he's okay. Gotcha. Thank you. He's a renowned collage master.
Did you not graduate collage, Joe?
That threw me off for a loop.
I never got my bachelor's from collage.
And Martin Marazzo from Ice Cream Man each contribute a chapter in their respective and beloved styles, resulting in a stunning melange of powerful stories that weave their way through death, love, divorce, crime, therapy, and language itself.
Jesus.
All things come to a close. These are the Swan Songs. It collects Swan Songs 1 through 6. I think that this is a really cool idea.
A little light reading, huh?
But it's like, but not everything is like the death of somebody or a divorce. Yeah. It's like
the end of Yeah.
Yeah, it's just each issue is like the end of something.
There's some amazing artists.
Talent collected here. Holy crap.
Yeah, craziness. We want to know what you college graduates are reading next week. So jump on our Discord. Talk to us. We got a whole new comics thing we do every week where we freak out about the new comics that are coming out and tune into our new comic show to hear us review our picks.
Before we tear the cover off this episode and send it back to the distributor for credit, I don't think many people are going to understand that reference.
It's an old school one.
It's a real old school kind of thing. It's time for a sneak peek at our Patreon Extra. You can get access to it when you support THN for as little as $1 per month. Take it away, past Joe and Matt.
Welcome, paying customers, to another exciting edition of...
Matt, welcome every customer.
No, we're not welcoming. We're giving some a sneak peek. The rest of them get to stick around for the whole thing if they pay for it, Joe.
We love you all. I can't stress that enough.
I'm not going to get into this love thing anymore. It's disgusting. We're doing TLDR, and we're doing a, confusing one. I guess we're going to talk through this one and see.
It's a recent one. If there's one thing we can agree on, is that it's recent.
It's very recent. It involves some changes to the Joker's origins. It's Joker year 1. It started in Batman 142 and carried through Batman 144. It was a 3-week event that they just poured into a shot glass and had us take it down. We went, how do you feel? And we went, I don't know. So we're going to talk through it today. And we're going to see if we can figure out.
I feel weird. I felt weird.
Like, did this add stuff to the Joker's origin? Did it take stuff away?
It technically did add something to Joker's origin.
I guess, yes, technically. It also may
Whether it's something worthwhile, that's up for debate. That's for the reader to decide.
I think the major debate is, did we tell Jeff Johns to fuck off? We'll get into that. I don't know.
Sort of.
We'll get into that. Why don't you start us off here, Joe?
All right. So, for those of you keeping track at home, this is Legacy number 907. The writer is Chip Zdarsky. The creative team is Giuseppe Camuncoli for the scenes set in the past, and Andrea Sorrentino for the scenes set in the future. Wait, what? You didn't know that there was a part of the story set in the future? Surprise! Neither did we.
Not how far in the future? We're not really sure.
Decades.
Decades.
Question mark.
Right.
Question mark.
So at least
All right.
20 years.
Sure. That's the bare minimum for it to be decades with an S.
Right.
So, as I said, the story starts in the future. It's many years. Batman is grizzled. He's old. Barbara is the commissioner. It's a very Batman Beyond sort of setup where, Babs is the commissioner. Gordon's long gone.
But Bats is still Bats. No one else is doing it.
Bats is still Bats. It's not like we're not so far that he's like grizzled Bruce Wayne and he finds a successor. Right. I don't even know. I don't mean to say that this is the Batman Beyond future because it obviously is not. But
and this isn't even Dark Knight Returns future. He's not like that big and wearing.
No. This is Infinite Earths, baby. We're Infinite Earths are back.
Who knows?
It doesn't matter what Earth this says.
Who knows?
Anyway. He's investigating a mystery where the Joker has left clues that tie back to his origins and their first meeting. We are reminded explicitly, for reasons that will become less clear as we go, that the quote unquote sane version of the Joker from an alternate world called the Red Mask,
Darwin Halliday,
from the Batman of Gotham crossover that ended, our storyline that ended with Batman 900. He inadvertently created the three Jokers at the moment of his origin due to him mucking about with the multiverse. He was obsessed with figuring out how he could become the Joker. And the tragedy is he never can.
So opinion. Is this the first time they tried to explain Jeff Johns' three Jokers thing, sort of in modern?
No. This Batman 900. That it is made clear in Batman 900 that because of what Halliday is doing, biff bang pow. Oh, there's three Jokers crawling out of the pond.
Literally,
at Ace Chemicals.
Literally, physically three Jokers. And you'll see why we're arguing about this in a minute.
Whether it's literal or not, I still don't really know. But again, we're going to dig into that. We're going to flash back now to Batman's early days. This is post 0 year. There is a reference later to the 0 year storyline during Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's tenure on the book, which makes that part of the New 52 Batman continuity, which is fine. Whatever.
Why? But why?
I mean, there's Court of Owls are around. It's not like things didn't.
I guess maybe they're trying.
It's not like Snyder had terrible ideas.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just curious to me, that part. We want you to know that part definitely counts. That's 0.
Well, because Joker historically, Joker first appeared in Batman #1,
right,
in 1940, I think, and so Batman was brand new when Joker came on the scene, and that's kind of how it is here in continuity.
Excelsior!
That is it for THN 733. If you dig our new comic reviews, you can check out our YouTube channel where you can subscribe to each show separately. We got a back issue show, a gang hang, the new comic show, or you can listen to them as podcasts on YouTube Music. Next week, the back issue show returns, and the Cosmic Long Box has us celebrating the life and work of Mr. Rick Remender. We were just talking about him.
Mostly the work.
Oh, yeah. We're not going to look at his baby pictures or anything.
Happy birthday, Rick Remender.
His mom's going to be here. It's going to be great. If you need more THN in the meantime, join us for the THN Gang Hang on Saturdays at 11 Central. Check out our Discord for details. Joe Patrick, what else can nerds do at the Discord?
You can get in on the action before we even air the show with our episode discussion thread. Sometimes I even post it on time.
Yeah.
You can join in the slut shaming of Havoc for his relationship with Madeline Pryor.
That's creepy.
That guy's Goblin King outfit is very problematic.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. The lady likes it, whatever.
He's a himbo for sure. You can learn more about the military's nuclear football. Very important.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to answer the question of the week. This week's question, in honor of this week's TLDR segment about Joker Year 1, what are your favorite and or least favorite revelations, retcons, etc. shown in a Year 1-esque origin update? For example, the art that I used is one of my often mentioned pet peeves, and that is that John Byrne, when he did Spider-Man Chapter 1, decided that Norman Osborn and the Sandman, Flint Marko, must be second cousins because they have the same hairstyle.
Joe Patrick, who else has that hairstyle? Come on. They have to be related. There's no question.
Right now, the Discord is skewing overwhelmingly negative, but feel free to throw some good ones in there if you've got some good ones.
It's hard to come up with the real good ones.
I've got good ones. I'll drop some good ones in there. We do need your question of the week suggestions, so please keep those coming. Thank you so much to the gentleman who posted a new question that we will use next week. I'm sorry, I don't have my Discord up, so I can't tell you who it is, but he knows who he is.
You're just going to hear about it next week. Don't worry.
I'm just saying, thanks. Keep it up.
You know what? Screw that guy. Screw him.
Hey,
I'm kidding.
Sign up for our Discord with the link at twoheadednerd.com/Discord. And once you're allowed in, no jerks allowed. That's the policy.
Yeah.
You can post about any of our segments there or send an MP3 submission for the Comic Pushers or Ask a Nerd or any of our segments to twoheadednerd@gmail.com. Hey, if you want, we'll even put you on the show.
If you're new to the show and you prefer your Batman extra horny, I assure you it's only because you haven't heard enough. The good news is you can hear the entire run of THN in our digital longbox archive over at twoheadednerd.com. THN is a listener-supported podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the generosity of donors like our patron, Jay Albright, who may or may not be Joe's cousin-in-law. Explain.
I have a cousin named Jeffrey Albright.
Okay.
This is a joke.
We cannot confirm. We cannot confirm.
My cousin-in-law, Jeffrey Albright, is also deaf, so he's probably not supporting our podcast.
Okay. Is he a jerk or anything?
No. I'm just saying he probably has never heard the show because, he's deaf.
Can't. And once again, we talk about a visual media on an audio show because we're idiots. But thank you, Mr. Albright. Yeah. If you like what you hear every week, it's easy to support the show. You can sign up to be a patron at patreon.com/twoheaded nerd. You can learn about the Joker this week.
Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to loyal listener and talented comic writer Adriano Oreganello, who confirmed that I say his name correctly.
Hey, all right.
Thank you, Adriano.
All right.
And his comic, Stay Cool, was just nominated twice in the 2023 Sequential Magazine Awards.
That's awesome.
Which is an event. It's an event sponsored by Strange Adventures, Comics and Curiosities up there in the Great White North, eh? I don't know what that accent was, and I apologize.
Kind of went Canadian, I suppose.
Kind of. I mean, I said A, but regardless, word to you, Adriano. We are rooting for you. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for this very episode so that all of you can get out there and rock the vote for So Cool. That's right.
So you go there and you vote.
It is a fan voted competition.
Oh, neat. That's very cool. Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might just vote you out of the store. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off.